So, Chris, thanks very much for coming. This year marks an absolutely monumentous year for Holman, being 100 years old. And I kind of just wanted to start off kind of how that feels to be 100 years old and to be sat as the CEO.
You know, I'm not 100 years old.
No,
Okay,
that's fair.
all right, that's good. First of all, thank you for having me today. This is great. It's always nice to be back in Chippenham. It's been quite a journey in this business, and I'm really proud of where we are today, and frankly proud to have been a part of the beginnings of things, and as were you, Aidan. So thank you for allowing me to be a part of your broadcast today. 100 years of Holman, it's incredible. And I've been little tidbit for you. On Thursday, I will celebrate 30 years with the company. So I'm having a little anniversary myself, so almost a third of the years that the company has been around. And I think it's even more profound for me as the new CEO of the business to take that on in a year that's such a celebration. And I was reflecting on what I'm most proud of, I think, as a company, as well as my ambitions personally, and that is to affect as many people as you can in a positive way.
Yeah.
You know, when you step away, and I don't have any plans to do that anytime soon, but when you step away from the business or you look back on a legacy that you may have led, I'm not sure that you'll remember all the hard work, the fleet, minded goals that you may have had with a customer or whatever, the stuff that keeps you up at night. You're going to remember the people that you cross paths with. And I think as a company over 100 years, based on our family's clear purpose, which is to surround themselves with great people and build a wonderful business that allows all of us to enjoy a great career and hopefully a better life for all of us and our families. I'm just really proud that we're celebrating this 100th year anniversary with those same principles in mind. So it's an exciting time for sure, and I can't wait to celebrate with our people around the globe. We've got a bunch of celebrations, including one here in the UK.
Looking forward to that. So, I didn't realise it was 30 years. That is crazy. And you've obviously done a lot of roles. And is there any kind of pivotal points in your career that that you're super proud of, or where you've learnt the most, I guess?
Yeah. So I started in our Canadian business in January of 1994. And like many young people, was just looking for a start of something. It was my second job out of university. Started in a customer relationship role, so just on the phones talking with our customers. And I was part of a small business in Canada with what was then called ARI. And so you got to get your hands into everything, which was really cool. It also gave you a little bit of profile. And so after doing a few things over, I guess, the first 5 years of my career, I was asked to relocate to America and take on a role in Colorado, which is, if ever you get a chance, beautiful place.
It's the only place I've been to. My father-in-law used to live
Is
in
that
Denver.
right? Oh, yeah. Okay.
So I've been to, I love it.
So my wife and I lived in Denver for 5 years, from 1998 to 2003. My son was born there in 2001. So it holds a dear spot in our heart. But as it relates to the kind of the career progression and the learnings for me, it was the most transformational time.
Yeah.
I was relatively young. I was asked to take on a leadership role, and I won't bore you with how things were structured in the day, but I had a handful of people working for me, both sales and service folks, some of them far more experienced and much, we'll call it mature than I was. And so that really helped me realize, as somebody who was successful earlier in the career, somebody that got stuff done, to be transition into that still matters, but so too does bringing others along with you and helping them be successful.
Yeah.
And it was my first taste of leadership in that way. So, turning back the clock, that's probably been the most, and that goes back, almost 23 years. So it wasn't like a recent thing.
Yeah. And we were talking about it just before we started that I've seen you personally in a number of roles through different things, and to see kind of the way the business has grown, I guess from your perspective, that's something that you're looking to, now really truly affect going into the next 100 years, to make sure we're ready for everyone and anyone.
Yeah, so I use a word around the office a lot that not everybody thinks is the right one, but it's always kind of a good thing to remind myself is, and that is the responsibility not just to execute on today, but the word I use is relevancy. It probably doesn't do it justice, but the intention there is that the things we do today are meant to establish our path for the future, and to make sure that the people that follow us in this business are still working for a vibrant company, one that has products and services that delivered on the needs of the customer tomorrow. And so while that may all seem very obvious, to me, it's an important reminder that we need to set the stage for the future. Now, I've always been a growth-oriented person. That's kind of how I'm wired, right? Going to show up, going to work really hard, and move the needle from where you are today to something that is in a positive direction. And we're very fortunate that our family ownership wants for us to continue to grow in a healthy fashion. As long as we can continue to keep our purpose alive and our caring culture as an organization, we want to do that. We want to have more people join Holman and have them find what many of us have been able to find in a way of a home that we can go to work to.
I've seen the business change. We've seen the business the way that we've grown. UK, we've seen an exponential growth, which is fantastic and, dare I say, long time coming, but absolutely great. And we've seen lots of changes. And comes that is how do you and the rest of the board, etc., what level of importance do you put on that culture that has helped us to this 100 years?
I think it's everything. I was having a conversation with somebody this morning, and we were talking about their history of work and what Holman is all about. And, culture, I think, gets overused. And frankly, I think in Holman, and Mindy may not agree with this, but I'm not I think family maybe gets a little overused. And not because those aren't wonderful descriptors. They are. But I think more importantly, it's the behaviors rather than just the description. And so when I think about our culture, I think of one that is genuine. We are who we say we are. We, I think, are very upfront and honest in the way that we conduct ourselves, both with our partners internally, but also with our partners outside of our own walls. And it's those behaviors, this idea of caring, not just caring for each other, which is very important, but also caring for our communities that support our success and caring for the customers that are on the other end of every interaction that we have. What you are is important in the services and the products and all of that, but who you are as a business, I think, is what differentiates yourself from others that may be out there. And what I love about Holman is the consistency of who we are. And it may be described in many different fashions, but true and honest and caring and real, that is going to be as important in 10 years and in 20 years and in 50 years as I think it has been for the last 100.
Yeah. I use this term, listening to understand instead of listening to respond.
Sure.
And I kind of think, because we don't sell a physical thing that you can pick up and we're not going to take a wheel off to give it to you for cheaper. We're selling the people at the end of that telephone or the end of that service. And so it's incredibly important that we understand so we can be relevant for the next 100, 200, etc. years. But how do we ensure that we retain that competitive edge? Because it's great saying, that we're a people business, and we definitely are. But how do we just ensure that we don't get stuck with what we're doing today, I guess?
Well, it's a wonderful thing to say we want to stay relevant and we want to be successful in the future, and we got this great culture. But if you don't have stuff that meets the needs of the people that need that stuff, you're going to be in trouble. And so what you've seen over, certainly in your working time here with our company, is more of a holistic view of Holman. We used to operate very distinctly in our fleet management business, and the other big business in America in particular is our retail dealership organization. They worked very separately. And then we've, through acquisition, grown in some other ways, So now we have an upfitting business that we, build trucks and build stuff, and we manufacture goods and import them and distribute them. And so we're far more diversified, and that was, I think in its early stages, a pure vertical integration play. But once we kind of had all of those pieces, it's been a very conscious decision over the course of the last few years to bring all of that together. Yeah. And this idea of competencies that we talk a lot about is we have all these various things that we do regardless of the business unit they're in that we think may be repackaged or evolved into something that will serve that future customer, that we can't sit here today and say, we know exactly what that looks like. It may involve autonomy. It may involve, obviously electrified power units differently than they are today. And I know you're a big electric vehicle proponent. Having those pieces that we can pull together, I think, is important. The other way that we, are trying to stay smarter for future relevancy is in our innovation activities, and primarily through our Growth Ventures group, where we are allocating capital to invest in either venture, so early stage companies, growth-oriented companies, or into funds that help us have visibility to other stuff. Yeah. And I'll give you a practical example. Something that we're working really hard on right now is in the robotics space. So think autonomy, think of autonomous mobile robots as an example, warehouses, where you're starting to see, I wouldn't call it a proliferation, but an absolute growth curve where assets are going to need to be sourced, funded, serviced, and in many cases operated, measured, and different things through software that there really isn't an infrastructure for. So these are the kinds of things that we're keeping an eye on, maybe getting a little involved in. Probably won't have it all figured out. Oh, I know we won't have it all figured out, but we'll have our hands into things that are true to who we are and the customers we serve, but also going to be a little bit different for what the future needs might look like.
It's incredibly interesting. You can't just, if you think about when we started 1924, obviously,
right.
We didn't have the same services we do today.
No.
And it's going to continue to evolve. And you kind of hit the nail on the head in all honesty. Is you don't know what it's going to be, but we have to continue to ask, to search, to look.
The funny thing is, and it's true in all of the geographies that we play in today in the fleet business, most of the services that we offer, and I don't know, there's like 30 of them or something, came out of a need that a customer asked us for, right? Could you do this? Could you do that? Now we're in a much more mature space in the fleet management industry, but our value proposition here in particular in the UK is very different than the typical contract hire model where, we're all about transparency. We're about unbundling services to give visibility and choice. In some regards, that's innovative in the space here. But we're also seeking what are different ways that we could bring value to a customer. And that, I think, will inform what products and services we have down the road.
The reality is, it sounds like we've had an incredibly successful 100 years.
Yeah.
And we've never been in a better place to have another successful. And I know Mindy and the family and yourself, we couldn't be in safer hands to do that. And that's incredibly, for me, who spent 17 years here, to see that growth has been phenomenal.
Yeah.
So first of all, I'd just like to thank you for that, and thank you for spending a bit of time with me today. We do have two things that we normally do before we finish. So the first one is, our tagline is driving what's right, and that can mean a lot of things to a lot of different people. Yeah. So I'd like to ask everyone that sits in the seat is, what does driving what's right mean to you?
Yeah, well, first of all, thank you for the confidence in those that continue to try and steer the ship in the right way, and that's by all kinds of different measures. Driving what's right, I had the good fortune as we were looking at, we brought our company together and we operated as different brands in different markets and wanting to unify around something. And we really felt like, the Holman brand could mean something different. And so, we're really excited to kind of bring everything together under one banner. And then we had a lot of conversations about, all right, well, is there some sort of descriptor? Tagline maybe doesn't do it justice, I can't even tell you how many versions we looked at, but it was really Mindy who hit on driving what's right. And she said, that's it. And of course, if you think about it, it has a lot of different meanings.
Yeah.
Right? We do sell cars and trucks. We sell them to consumers out of our dealerships. We put them in the hands of our fleet customers in a tool of trade type of scenario. To be able to put something that is driving the right asset to do the job or give people the satisfaction they want, there's something to that. But as importantly, it is, what's our mission as a company? And this is to answer your question more directly, where I lean into. We have a purpose at Holman that is part of our Holman Way mantra. Certainly we try to live out the values that we prescribe to. We have guiding principles that tells us the things that we should do and where we should point our efforts. But it's really this purpose that we have, which is to create, a rewarding career for every one of us that comes to work here, so that all of us can provide a wonderful life for our families.
Yeah.
And when I think about driving what's right, it's our behaviors every single day to make sure that those things happen.
Amazing. And it's really great. It's actually, lots of people have similar versions, but their own version. And I find that incredibly interesting. And it's great because you kind of look through the curtain, if you like, because kind of how it was created.
Yeah.
It's incredibly interesting.
So, that's what resonated for all of us, was that it kind of spoke to everything that we do. It's not just a catchphrase that doesn't have a meaning to us. It's what we do.
Fantastic. The last thing that we do is we see a bookshelf. You can see there's a couple of things. I think Nick's was the Ferrari and Rick's was the Blue Jays. Is that a Blue Jays?
That's the Toronto Blue Jays. He and I share the same passion for our baseball team.
What we like to do is we ask our guest if they can bring something, can just kind of explain why you've brought it and kind of what it means to you from that perspective.
Well, I don't know if you're happy about this or not, but I actually brought two things.
Okay.
And they're somewhat linked. So early on in my career, and it probably lasted longer than it should have, but I was very much a results-oriented person. Still am to some degree. But I don't think that I ever consciously thought that taking something from point A to point B was the only thing that was important. But that was the measure of, certainly as a younger person growing up in the business, as I measured my own success, was being able to move the needle. And I had some wonderful mentors over the years, some formal mentors, some people that just were around you. And you learn from others, right?
Yeah.
What you should do, and also maybe what you shouldn't.
Yeah.
And then you have those that are more impactful just personally because they tell you some of the things that you need to know. And so I know you're familiar with this book.
Very much.
Be the Sun, Not the Salt, written by our friend, Dr. Harry Cohen. And this is probably less about the book than it is about his impact on me. But the reality is this book has, 30 messages that are very short and concise, and they're great reminders for some of us who at times need to be reminded of what good looks like.
Yeah.
And so, Harry, one of the first interactions we had, we talked about empathy and just being there and thinking about others before yourself at times. And there were, I think most of us think we're good people, but sometimes good people aren't thoughtful about how they're doing the things that they're doing. And so I became a lot more, by the help of Harry and this wonderful book, available on Amazon. He'll be happy I said that. He's got bills to pay. But there's some simple reminders in this book that I find really helpful to me in the how you do things versus what it is that you do. And I find myself I know I'm a better person as a result of these reminders. And it's little things. Do all the good you can do. Be helpful. Be your best self. Light someone up. You talked about how you listen. Leaving people better when they feel better when they leave you. Just those kinds of reminders. This book, but certainly the person before the book, really changed me for the better. And I think shows up in my ability to lead. So that's one for your shelf.
That is amazing.
However, I brought a second, and this is a photograph. Actually, Harry's in there, of the executive leadership team for Holman. This was taken at the Grand Ole Opry in Nashville, and I won't bore you with why we're all there. But this picture, which I have another one of these on my shelf, so I'll give you this one, is a reminder that you can't get there on your own. And I'm so proud of being associated with this group in particular because you want to surround yourself with people who you can be yourself with, but also challenge you to think differently and remind you of the things that you need to do to be your best self to help them and to help others. And so this group of 12 people are my friends. They're my colleagues. They're the people I love going to war with, and I've learned an awful lot of. So when I think about, this great book, Be the Sun, and how it actually happens in practice, these are the people for me that it happens with every day.
That's amazing. And thank you very much for that. Yeah. I do have one quick thing. I was fortunate enough to have a quick interview with Harry.
Yeah.
Maybe a year ago. And so I made sure I read that book.
Yeah.
And I'm glad it was one of the best things, because it is simple, like he said. It's not meant to be rocket science. You can pick it up, you can put it back down. But I actually gave it to my daughter to have a read. And it made me laugh, because it's not just a workbook. It is something to pick up from your own personal perspective. And my daughter, who at the time I think she must have been 8, was getting told off by my wife.
Yeah.
And my daughter's response was, "Can you just be a bit more sunny and less salty, please?" And I told Harry, and it just made his day, because it's not about, and if you don't do it right, do it better the next time, and all that kind of stuff. And it's incredible. We'll make sure we put it on there. And thank you very much for bringing the photo, which we'll make sure is tied in. But Great. From my perspective, thank you very much for your time. And hopefully we'll get you back for another one.
Let's do it. I got lots more stories I can share with you, some good ones too.